All right, we are back for another episode of the Building the Pride podcast live stream. I am your host, Mike. Drew is not going to be with us tonight. He is working the election booths here in Michigan. So um, tonight's just me. So we got some interesting stuff. But before we get started, I wanted to say thank you to new subscribers. We got Phil, Shayman33, and Brian Arndt. So appreciate you guys clicking that subscribe button. Hope you guys enjoy the content. Definitely have your friends join. Participate in the chat. It's a good time. Appreciate everybody doing that. So welcome to you guys. Figure we would start with a little bit of news and notes around the NFL. Brandon Ayuk is still sitting out there in his holdout or hold in, I think, as he calls it. Where, thanks, Kath. Where he is coming to practice, but not practicing until he gets his new contract. So there have been some rumors that he is seeking a trade. There's rumors that San Francisco has agreed to potentially trade him and to give him permission to talk to some other teams. I believe Cleveland and New England were a couple of those rumored destinations, with potentially the Steelers being a trade destination. So I guess question for whoever's we popping into chat: where would you go if you're Brandon Ayuk and your options are Cleveland, New England, and Pittsburgh? What's your choice? Do you go into New England? They've got a brand new quarterback, highly touted early draft pick. If I was New England, I'd be going all in on that, trying to get something for our guys to have a target, right? So you don't want to do what the Bears did when they drafted Justin Fields, which was provide him no targets. Like that, Fields had nobody really to throw to. So if you're New England, you need to learn from Chicago's mistakes, right? So I think you go all in there. But the question is, from Brandon Ayuk's standpoint, is would I go there from a franchise that is essentially at the bottom and trying to build their way up? Or do you go to Cleveland? Cleveland's probably got a top 5 roster. They were a playoff team last year. I think they're going to be a playoff team this year, and maybe he's thinking that gets them over the hump. The downside is you're in Ohio. You're playing in Cleveland. I'm assuming that in order to go there, they're going to have to pay him a big chunk of change to get that agreement to go through. But if you're Ayuk, are you going to Cleveland? Would you go to Cleveland? I mean, I know I wouldn't want to live in Ohio, but maybe if I got paid $30 million a year, I'd probably consider it, right? And then kind of the last one that's on the rumor mill is the Steelers. And the Steelers, they've got 2 quarterbacks, right? They've got Justin Fields, he's there, and they've got Russell Wilson, he's there. Who's going to start? Probably Russell to start the season. Will he finish there? I don't know. We'll have to see. But is that a place that you want to go if you're Ayuk? Personally, I think if I'm Ayuk, my options being those, I would still just try to stay in San Francisco. Do what you can to stay there. It is a beautiful city, great weather. You're not in Ohio. You're not in a franchise at the bottom of the barrel trying to build their way up. And you've got a team that went to the Super Bowl last year around you. So if I'm Ayuk, I'm going to do what I can to try to stay in San Francisco, get paid there. But if that's not an option, I'm thinking Cleveland is probably the best way to go. Brian, yes, says Cleveland has the best roster and weather. May choose New England just because it's all on at the ground floor. Yeah, I could see that. Some people want to be on that ground floor building a thing, build the dynasty kind of thing. But if he wants to win now, Cleveland is definitely the better of the 2 options as far as that's concerned. That said, it's not as good of an option as staying in San Francisco and trying to continue the the dominance that they've showed in the NFC West over there. So I find that super interesting with Ayuk. I'll be really curious to see where he lands, what he signs for. I know the Amon-Ra St. Brown contract probably did not help anything as far as the San Francisco 49ers are concerned, right? Because now they have to compete with that new level and of contract and trying to keep a guy like Brandon Ayuk happy. So the other thing that was kind of interesting, kind of in that news and notes around the NFL, is there's a list, and I'll pop it up here on the screen here in just a second. But there's an interesting list of first-time Pro Football Hall of Fame eligibles. So the question is, who are you taking? We've got Eli Manning, we got Terrell Suggs, we got Marshawn Lynch, Beast Mode, Earl Thomas, Aqib Talib, Adam Vinatieri, Luke Kuechly, and Marshall Yanda. Yeah, Brian, I agree. Staying in San Francisco is his best choice. But I find these interesting. My biggest one, I mean, I think Marshawn Lynch is probably going to get in. I think Suggs is probably going to get in. Does Vinatieri get in? It's really tough for a kicker to get in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So that said, if there's going to be a kicker that deserves it, Vinatieri is right at the top of that list, right? So I do like the idea of some of these more unrecognized positions. You know, we've got the punt returner, right, from Chicago, Devin Hester. I like that kind of guy getting in. I like guys like Adam Vinatieri getting in. Partially because I think it also gives Jason Hanson an opportunity to get in, because that dude was the best player on our team for like 20 years. I mean, he was Mr. Automatic, had a really high percentage of made kicks, very rarely missed. If there was a kick at the end of the game and he's going to trot out there, you had no, doubts that it was going to, pass through the uprights. So I'd love to see Adam Vinatieri get in. I would love to see Hanson get in eventually. I haven't seen A6 in the chat, but he's a huge Luke Kuechly fan. So I'm assuming, so Dr. D, Goff is not on there because he is not eligible for the Hall of Fame yet. I think it's 3 years you have to be retired from football. So maybe eventually winning a Super Bowl would really help his chances. But we'll have to see how the rest of his career goes. I don't think he's there yet as far as his current career resume. But I think if he can win one in Detroit, I mean, you deserve a statue. So we'll kind of see how that goes with Goff. So on the first time eligibles, and then I want to kind of get to, because I'm a Stafford fan and he was a former Lion. I'll kind of get to what we think on Stafford and what his odds are for getting in. But the one I really struggle with is Eli Manning. Yeah, he's got 2 Super Bowls, and that's awesome, and that's an accomplishment. But is that enough? Is being part of 2 winning teams enough to be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, or do you really need to be elite? What's up, Dakota? Welcome to the chat. I've never considered Eli Manning elite. He was good, and even very good a couple times, but he was never consistently elite. He never did anything really amazing. Typically, the amazing things were done by helmets. The helmet catch, and his wide receivers. Odell Beckham Jr. breaking the internet with his amazing catch. Those were more parts of, it's part of his legacy is being parts of those plays, but he was not the main guy there in those instances. Excuse me. So I struggle with Manning, but I do think, two Super Bowls has to mean something. Dan Marino is in, but he doesn't have any Super Bowls, right? So does 2 get you in regardless of how elite you were through your years? He's way up on the all-time yards list. He played a lot of years, and he played solid. I'm just not sure he's Hall of Fame worthy. I would not go with Eli Manning as an inductee, but Suggs, I think it would be at the top of my list with this group. Luke Kuechly would be at the top of my list. Beast Mode, Marshawn Lynch, um, Earl Thomas, and Aqib Talib. They're really tight. They're both really good, right? Like just being on this list means you did some things in your career that you need to be really proud of. And just scrubs don't get on here. So even like Manning's not a scrub, right? He's still a damn good player. I'm just not sure he's in the. Is this the Hall of Fame or is this the Hall of the really good on a good team, or on a team that won, right? So that's kind of my. There's A6 Luke. I told him, I mean, Luke's okay, but that Eli guy, he was special. And then he said he wanted to fight me. So I figured I wouldn't talk crap about Kuechly anymore. But what does everybody else have? Who else thinks Eli Manning gets in? And who else has, like, if you were to rank, if you could only pick two guys on this list, who are you putting in the Hall of Fame? Be curious what the chat thinks there. And then kind of the other thing that I was thinking about with the Hall of Fame, I think looking at Lions, I think Stafford is probably the next Lion that's going to be potentially there. And Ndamukong Suh, I think, is another one, former Lion. Obviously, he didn't play as many years in Detroit as Stafford did, but he was also on that list of just game wreckers, right? So he was a beast. I wish he would have played in Detroit a little bit longer because as soon as he left, our defense dropped like a rock. We had a number 2 overall defense 1 year, and then he left, and then it just kind of dropped. Dakota says Lynch and Adam Vinatieri. I like that. Get the kickers in. So I think Sue will probably get in there when he's eligible, and that'll be cool. Stafford, I think he's got to be right. He's the fastest to 15,000 yards, 20,000 yards, and like every 5,000 yard increment all the way up to 45, which is where he's at right now. He's got a Super Bowl. He was the difference for the Lions for 10 years. And I think he played at an elite level, even though the rest of his team was straight trash. So I think he gets in. I think he's going to be one of those guys similar to Eli Manning, where it's a little bit of a controversy. Like, was he good enough? I personally think he was. But I can see where people are like, well, look at his record in Detroit. Look at his overall record. And I'm more of a guy that's going to look at the structure around that. A bottom 10 offensive line, bottom 6 run game, bottom 3, bottom 5 defense. His best tight end was Brandon Pettigrew, who's a blocking tight end. His coaching staffs never head coached again. Most of them never got an offensive coordinatorship position again. Like, it wasn't a quality team around him. So I think he did really damn well, considering what was around him. And I think him and Calvin made a magical combo. So I think he gets in, but it'll be interesting to see. Kind of curious where everybody else at on the Stafford side of things once he gets eligible. And also curious about the Goff thing. Like, I think he's put up some good numbers. He got to the Super Bowl with LA, and we were a helmet doink catch away from making the Super Bowl this past year. That turned the game around for San Francisco. So I think we've got a great team this year. So I think there's a good chance that we can get back to the NFC Championship game, potentially the Super Bowl. So. If he can do that and add a little bit more to his resume, I think he can also be on the border of does he get in or not. So I'll be curious to see how all that stuff goes. What else we want to talk about? We kind of talked a little bit about it last week. But the NFL Top 100 was out, and I don't believe the top 20 had been announced when we did our show last week. So, we got a ticker at the bottom. We had 5 Lions on the list, which was awesome to see. Sam Laporta, as a rookie, jumped all the way to number 80. I say jumped. He wasn't there, obviously, the previous year, but like he went at number 80. Goff was at 48. Hutch is at 47. St. Brown and Sewell were at 23 and 22, respectively. We got a really great representation in the top 100. And I love the fact that outside of Goff, these guys are all like 25 and under. Like these are really core, really good young players that have a lot of game left in them. And even, I mean, not that Goff's young, he's not old. He's what, 31, something like that, 30, 31. So he's got some game left in him too. So we have a really good young core, and it's super exciting to see. But the top 10 ended up, Tyreek Hill was the first time a wide receiver has been voted as number 1 overall, I believe. So they got Hill at number 1, Lamar Jackson, last year's MVP, at number 2, CMC at number 3, Patrick Mahomes, who I think is probably the best player in the world, but he's at number 4. Myles Garrett was just a wrecking machine. He's at 5. Chris Jones was a stud, and probably the fact that he wasn't on the defensive line in game 1 last year against us was a big help for us when it came to, do we win that game or not? Because he is a stud. Trent Williams is clearly the best offensive left tackle in the game. So I appreciate the recognition that the offensive line gets up there. Although I think Sewell is right behind him, so I'm a little disappointed Sewell's only at 22 when they got Trent at 7, but maybe that's a little bit of homer in me. TJ Watt at 8. Taylor Swift's boyfriend at number 9, and Max Crosby from Eastern Michigan University, might I add, is rounding out the top 10. So, I mean, obviously these guys are all amazing players. So I'm really hoping that next year we can get guys like Sewell and Hutch up in that top 10. Maybe St. Brown. There's a lot of amazing wide receivers, so it's going to be tough to, I think, get 3 guys in the top 10. That would be living the dream, wouldn't it? So that's kind of the news and notes around the NFL as far as that's concerned. One of the things that we got going on this week is we got joint practices with the New York Giants, the New York Football Giants, going on this week. We've had some injuries, unfortunately, during practices. Terrian Arnold was injured, but he did clear concussion protocol. I don't know if he ended up practicing today. Emmanuel Mosley's out indefinitely with a torn pectoral muscle, which is a bummer for him because he is on his way back from torn ACL in back-to-back years. He listed as out indefinitely, but I believe Coach Campbell said that it is possible he might be able to come back in time for playoffs if he can rehab well enough. So hoping that he can come back. 3 years in a row with injuries has just got to be devastating to just him, right? Laporta, they said, has a minor hamstring injury, nothing major. Kevin Zeitler, our new guard, Rodrigo, and Ife Melifanu also all have minor injuries that kept him out of today's practice. So it doesn't sound like anything major other than Mosley. So we have, for the most part, avoided major injury, which is exactly what we want to see in the preseason. And as Asic said, CJGG made it back to the playoffs, and he was hurt in the season. So there is definitely hope. So that'll be cool. But I mean, the thing that we want to do out of the preseason is not just evaluate our young guys and figure out who's going to round out the roster, but we just need to stay healthy. We've got preseason game tomorrow. I'm sorry, not tomorrow, Thursday, 7 p.m. in New York. We've been doing joint practices. it's been kind of a shit show apparently the last couple days. Lots of fights. I think there were 5 different fights over the last day and a half, and I believe the practice ended today with a fight. Disappointing. I mean, I don't want to say disappointed. It's one of those things where you're like, obviously, it's a heated game, it's a physical game, it's an emotional game. I get that, but I'd like to see a little bit more control. Campbell's a really fiery coach, so I don't know if at least 8 yesterday, according to Pride of Detroit, and more today. Uh, yeah, I never the counter was just ticking, and I lost track. And I believe today at the end, Kirby Joseph got into it, throwing fists with Malik Neighbors, the wide receiver for the Giants, and I believe Kirby Joseph and possibly Neighbors as well was escorted out by security, and I heard that he was suspended for a week for the fight. So those are the kind of things that, like, I get it's physical and it's an emotional game, but I mean you got to be smart about things, and it's a little disappointed that we're not doing that. We're not being smart about some things. A little pushing and shoving, that's not a big deal, but when you start throwing like legit haymakers, you need to calm down a little bit. So one of the things I wonder is, I mean, Campbell's a fiery guy, right? I mean, he has a biting kneecaps, run through the wall kind of guy. So much like Jim Schwartz, I don't know if you remember the Jim Schwartz era. There was um, a lot of problems with personal fouls and those kind of things from passion and energy and just recklessness under Schwartz. That was right in the middle of Sue's time with us as well. So I'm sure everybody remembers the stomp on Aaron Rodgers' ankle and whatnot. So my dad's calling. We'll have to talk after the show. But I do wonder if Campbell's kind of in that same boat where he's really emotional, really excitable, very aggressive, and if that's coming through, which it's generally good, right? As long as you're not doing stupid stuff. If you're doing stupid stuff, you're taking dumb penalties, or in this case, potentially getting suspended for a week. That's no good. We need to tone it down just a touch. Go right up to that line, even lean over it. Just don't jump. Don't jump over that line, and don't run over that line, right? We need you guys on the field. Asic says, yeah, Terrian broke up a pass, and on the way back, Neighbors threw a punch, a walk-by punch. If I remember right, he just kind of like shoved right at his face mask on Kirby, so Kirby went off. Yeah, it was definitely a Neighbors started it. But Kirby took it to the next level for sure. He's an emotional dude, though. He's one of those emotional centers of the defense. So I'm mixed on it. Like I want to make sure that we stay aggressive, and I want us to be emotional and just and go all out. But at the same time, we have to make sure we're not crossing that line and getting us in trouble with the law whether it's suspensions or penalties. Something like that pulled canceled out a big play or a big penalty from the other team or something. Those are the kind of things that bite you in the ass, and then you really, really are like, was it worth it? Probably not. So as long as we play smart and passionate, that's what I'm looking for. Smart and aggressive, that's what I'm looking for. And I think Campbell's usually right on the right track with all that stuff. So we'll see how the next practice goes and how the game goes on Thursday. Whether we play with a little bit of more focused aggression instead of more reckless aggression. So Thursday. So here's the schedule that we got coming up. So preseason week one, we're going to be in New York against the Giants Thursday night at 7. Week 2, we're going to be playing the Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs. Taylor Swift may or may not be part of the game or in the crowd. You never know. It's going to be in Kansas City. So stay tuned. And then week 3, we're going to be home against Pittsburgh. So we've got a couple strong teams with the Chiefs, and I think Pittsburgh is going to be a decent team this year too. So the Giants, I think they're going to be a middle of the pack decent team as well. So I think it'll be an interesting preseason. Hopefully we can get through it healthy. Kind of curious if anybody in chat has been checking into any of the media around our practices and who's been doing well, who hasn't been doing well. I think I read that Jake Bates, the new kicker, was 6 for 9 on field goal attempts today. I think he went 2 for 4 on attempts from 50 plus, making one from 50 and 53 yards. One of his other misses was a 46 yarder. So I like the fact that he's kicking some long field goals. I'd like to see 8 out of 9, right? Because, I want perfection if we can. But that seems to be at a higher rate than what we've had from our kickers in the past. So it doesn't say anything about how many not field goals, but extra points he might have attempted. So I don't know if he was 100%, 0%, somewhere in between. I'm not really sure. Detroit's second team offensive line struggled at points from this article that I was kind of checking out. Flagged a bunch of times, displayed some floppiness. So it's good to get those younger guys in there. How's it going, Pat? Welcome to the chat. Doing well. How are you guys? How are you doing, Pat? Drew is out tonight. So if you wanted to see his gorgeous beard, you'll have to probably wait till next Tuesday. You're stuck with me and my beardless face. So, but you guys, you having any crazy weather at all? We had another tornado warning today. Thankfully, as far as I know, nothing touched down. I had to put in a 4-wheel drive on the way to work this morning because it was raining so hard. It was crazy. So I don't know where everybody else is going, but can't wait till Thursday in football. Yeah, buddy. Looking forward to it. Who do we got in the game? Like, what are we thinking the score is going to be Thursday? Detroit. I think we're just a better team, but at the same time, Goff's not going to play. The way that I understand it, almost none of our starters are going to play. So whether we're the better team or not doesn't matter when you're looking at the back half of the roster. So the real question is who's got the best depth, and it's probably still us. So I'm betting on the Lions until I see us lose. So I don't know if I'm optimistic or foolish, but either way, I'm a Lions fan, ride or die. Yeah, hope we have no injuries, 100%. It's the only thing we care about, right? We don't care about the score. I believe that the 0-16 season, we went 4-0 in the preseason and then proceeded to lose the 16 games that mattered. So preseason game scores, win-loss record, straight doesn't matter. It's all about getting through healthy. And second to that, it's all about evaluating your depth players and who's making that 53-man roster, right? So I think we're going to be in pretty good shape for that. We have such good depth. It's kind of crazy, to be honest, the kind of depth that we've got. And it's all happened in essentially 3 years. So Quinn and Patricia took what was a really good roster and just ruined it. And with Brad Holmes coming into the mix and Dan Campbell coming into the mix, it's been awesome to see us actually build a solid team, like everywhere. I look at like the decade, 12 years that Stafford was in Detroit, and we had a quarterback and we had Calvin Johnson. And we had a couple decent wide receivers like Golden Tate and Marvin Jones Jr. They were not amazing, but they were good. They were good quality receivers. But that was it. We had no run game. We had terrible offensive line. We had terrible defense. We got no pressure on the quarterback. Our coaching was terrible. Our play calling was terrible. And it's literally going to be it's a 360, right? All the way around to from nothing to everything. How long am I going to be on tonight? I don't know. I'm going to try to go for an hour. I do not vamp like Drew does, so I may struggle to get keep going. But as long as you guys are in the chat, throwing ideas out and questions out and that kind of stuff, I think we can go as long as y'all want to. I'm not hungry, so I'll just go until you guys are bored. So, or we have nothing else to talk about. But yeah, our depth now is something I've never seen. Even going back to Barry Sanders and that era, I see these memes of like, oh, I'm this many years old, and they'll show somebody from it'll show like Adrian Peterson. I remember Adrian Peterson as a rookie years old kind of stuff, and I'm like, I remember Billy Sims as running back and Eric Hipple as quarterback years old. So, are you gonna watch the whole game tomorrow night? Probably. There's not much else on. A and B. It's always interesting to see some of the young guys and some of those camp battles because you're going to get some great. Honestly, you're going to get really high end effort from these guys because they're fighting for their position, right? They're trying to make the roster. They're trying to impress the staff. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun to watch, even though you're missing out on, St. Brown and Gibbs and Monty and Goff and like the big Hutch. I'd be shocked if Hutch plays, right? So I think while you're missing out on seeing like the core, highly skilled starters, I think it's gonna be a hell of a lot of fun because those guys are going to be trying to make the squad, and you do that by putting out effort. You do that by going whistle to whistle. You go 100% every play. Sleep when you're dead kind of idea, right? So I think it'll be fun. I think I'll watch the whole game, and there's not much else on anyway. So at the very least, just let's watch some preseason football. What about you guys? You guys all watching? Do you have any predictions for the game? I don't have a score prediction per se, but I think we'll probably win by a touchdown. You're Dave Craig years old. Love it. Yep, I remember Dave Craig. That's funny. I would not play any starters. Yeah, I believe Campbell said that he's not planning on playing most of our starters. So I would be shocked if. I mean, I could. I'm trying to think like who might even be a starter that would play. Like, does Zeitler play just to get some reps in with his team? With his new team, probably not. Like I'm guessing Zeitler doesn't play. Um, I don't think. I mean, Sewell's not going to play. Decker's probably not going to play. Congratulations to Decker, by the way, for signing his 3-year extension at about $20 million a year. I'm sure that felt good depositing that into his bank account. What other starters do we think might even play? I'm trying to think on like the depth. Let's see. Let's take a look and see what the Detroit Lions depth chart is. And then I'll pop that on there. I'll share the screen. Oops. Try that again. Detroit Lions depth chart. All right. So this is what we got for the depth chart. So I don't think Goff plays, right? Monty's probably not playing. St. Brown's not playing. Jameson Williams might play. I could see him playing. Khalif Raymond, I could see maybe playing. Laporta's got the minor hamstring injury. I don't think they're going to do that because I don't think they want to upset that. Decker won't play. I doubt Glasgow will play. Danny says Terry and Arnold just for reps. I think the rookies will play, right? Even Terry and Arnold, we know he's going to be on the team. He's part of the 53. But I agree. I think he's going to probably play some just to get reps in. I don't think he's play a ton, maybe like the first quarter, but I do think he probably sees the field. Glasgow won't play. I don't. Maybe Ragnar for sure won't play. I don't think Zeitler or Sewell will play. On the defensive side, Hutch won't play. I Davenport might. Reeder's injured, so he's not going to play. I could see McNeil maybe playing. Campbell will probably play, but Anzalone probably won't. And when I say probably, I mean my guess, not any rumors or reports. So I'm not sure if Barnes will play. Davis, maybe. Brian says rookies, probably not JMO. What he needs is reps with Goff. That's true. It's only been 3 years, but I know they still need to get on the same page. Although it sounds like they're more on the same page this year than ever before. So I love hearing that. I would love to see a lot more of those slants and just run after the catch kind of stuff. I don't think we're going to throw in long bombs to him. That's just not what Goff excels at, unless he's broken coverage. But like those quick slants where you just get him going with speed, I think is where his sweet spot's going to be. Much like Tyreek Hill, right? Like Tyreek Hill is like Olympics, quality speed, but he's not a guy that they're going to shoot downfield, 40-yard bombs, right? It's mostly quick slants and get him running, get him in space, and let him just take off after that. So I think that JMO's going to be doing something very similar for us. Kirby Joseph won't, because I believe that he is suspended or will be suspended. So I doubt he'll play. I think Arnold Robinson will probably both play, get some reps in. Yeah, passes. I want to see Bates kick tomorrow instead. not going forward on fourth down. Let's try a 60-yarder. Dude, let's do it. It doesn't matter, right? Let's get it going. I think Bates will play, right? He's got to win his spot. I know Badgley's hurt, but I think we need to get some game reps in. So, I think most of our starters probably won't play, but I could see a couple that might. I don't know. What do you guys think on Campbell? Do you think he's starting or playing at all? Maybe just like the first series or something. He's pretty young and needs something. Brian says, I meant if he had anything to work on, it would be time with Goff. Yeah. I don't think they will play him much until week 1. Yeah, I could see that. I mean, you don't want to. I mean, outside of St. Brown, he's our next best guy. So you don't want to have the number 2 guy take any big hits or potential injuries. So I am looking forward to seeing guys like Tom Kennedy and Antoine Green get out there again. Pat says he would not play Campbell. Out of curiosity, is it because you feel like it's an injury risk and he's already proven himself? I mean, he's going to make the squad, right? But like, is it because he's already proven that he can do it? His preseason and training camp has been good and we don't want to risk the injury? Or do you just think like he just already knows it? Yeah. Yes, sir. Yep, I get it. I'd like to see all of our starters, our planned starters, just stay healthy. That's literally the only thing that matters. Getting to see some of these backups play, like Onwuzurike. I'd love to see him out there do some damage. Houston, like to see him get some reps in and see if he's still that fast power guy that he was before he got hurt. Rodrigo, I'm guessing he probably won't if he has a minor injury, which is what I'd read today. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Is there anybody in particular that you guys are looking forward to? I see, they mentioned Bates getting some kicking time in. Who else is interesting? Pat says, I'm going to be watching the tight end who's going to be TE number 3. Zylstra, Mitchell, and Wright. I think Brock Wright is our fairly clear number two. Um, the question is, are we going to keep four tight ends on the roster? I think when Drew comes back, we've got a couple episodes that we're thinking about doing positions of value. The last couple years, especially this past year, um, obviously tons of money from the media contracts with the NBC, CBS, all of them, Amazon. Um, so that kind of flooded, and we had some really big paydays. Um, they like Hesse. I'm not sure. I don't know who that one is at tight end, huh? But there's a lot of paydays that have happened, and it's been interesting to see the order in which the highest paid are, right? So, because typically your value is what they pay you. So, if a position group barely gets any money, they're obviously not valued as less or as much as, say, a quarterback who is typically toward the top of that, right? So, but if when you look at the rankings, they've changed the last couple of years, and so I think we're going to go into that probably next week um, to kind of talk about what's different in the positions of value game when it's changed a little bit over the last couple of years. Um, you're watching the other defensive ends like Bates and Houston, yeah. Um, I'll be I'll be interesting to see those, and even guys like Wingo. Like, what is he looking like? Because he was kind of that mid to late round pick, and people were kind of questioning that pick a little bit. So, um, Broderick Martin, they totally revamped his game and taught him from the ground up kind of thing. All right, what does that look like now? A year into that. Brian says the practice reps are more important for truly refining. Preseason is for winning jobs and getting reps for young players. I don't think a non-rookie starter plays this week or much all preseason. I think you're probably right. You're probably right. Even young guys like Campbell probably won't get in. Barnes probably won't get in. Branch probably won't get in. They're young. Even Jameson Williams, who's never played a full 16 game season or 17 game season yet, probably won't get in. So that's a good point. Gibbs, Monty won't. I'll be curious to see what Vaki looks like. I've seen some of his videos on YouTube and whatnot, his highlights, and he's an intriguing player. I was kind of shocked when they took him as early as they took him in the draft. But running backs get banged up, and if there's going to be an injury, which knock on wood, that doesn't happen, right? But injuries are a part of the game. But so it's interesting to have a guy like him on the bench ready to come in and pick up where one of those guys left off if something like that were to happen. So yeah, Pat says he'd like to see Martin. I'd like to see Broderick Martin as well. Any other depth guys that stand out, like that could be your surprise? I mean, does Tom Kennedy make the squad? He's always been one of the very last cuts in preseason because he just does everything right. He catches the ball, he runs the routes, and for whatever reason, he just can't make the team. Is this year different? Like, is there an opening in the wide receiver core that might let him actually make the team for once? Because he just never dropped the ball and did everything that was asked. So he's one of those guys that I'm like, all right, I'd really love to see this guy make the team. He's an effort guy. He's a heart guy. Trying to think of who else might be on here that would be super interesting to see just pop up and come out of nowhere. TK85 might be on the practice squad. Yeah. Hope not. Like I really hope he makes the team. Because I think he does. He gives it his all, and I think you can count on him. He's not as fast as Jameson Williams. He's not as shifty and precision route running like Amon-Ra St. Brown is. Um, but I don't think he's much different. I mean, Antoine Green, obviously they're different builds, right? And they're different types of receivers, but I'm just not sure he's that much further behind guys like Antoine Green or Fountain or Donovan Peoples Jones, right? So I'm rooting for Kennedy. I'd love to see him make the squad. Um, Trying to think what else. James Houston is listed as our third Sam linebacker and second defensive end, so he's going to be kind of a split guy, which is not surprising. Any other like camp battles that is super interesting to you guys that we need to be on the lookout for on Thursday night? Reynolds and Raymond as returners, Scott Daly's long snapper. Yeah, I don't think there's anything in particular. I'll be curious to see if guys like Vildor, Gilmore, those guys make the squad. We got a lot of depth finally at cornerbacks. Pat says, are you going to be watching the other defensive ends to see who else might make it? Like Bates. Yeah, I mean, that was one of the things that we struggled with last year was getting pressure on the quarterback. Um, Pressure on the quarterback helped our secondary out, and our secondary was horrendous for most of the year. It got better toward the end. Like all of the defense got better as the year went on, right? But our secondary was still not good at the end. And if we can get just a half a second more pressure, an extra step, have that quarterback throw it just slightly before the wide receivers ready for it, or have to tuck it and run it. Like just a little bit of pressure takes a ton of pressure off of our cornerback and backfields, right? So I'd love to see more on the defensive ends. See what Pascal's going to do. I doubt Davenport's going to play, but I can't wait to see what he does. Kyle Pecco on the inside there. Yeah, definitely. I think those are going to be some interesting camp battles, and those are the kind of things that I'm looking forward to watching that effort on the field, because they are working. They're working for their jobs. They're trying to make the team and impress the coaches. So the guys that just have huge motors and their job is just go after the quarterback, those guys are going to be really fun to watch, I think. Brian says, I think the secondary and pass rushers are the interesting parts of the D to watch. Will Brandon Joseph earn a spot? Will we keep 5 safeties? Who takes Comiskey's spot? Betts, Goudet, or Chris Smith? Yep, I agree. Those are the two pieces. Like, our safeties have been generally really good, right? That hasn't been a weak spot for us. Our linebackers, like Anzalone, played his best season of his career last year. Campbell was up and down, or I should say down then up, right? Like his first 10 games were atrocious. And then the last 7 games, he started to come on and start play better, more like that number 18 overall pick that we are hoping that he's going to be. So I think our linebacking core, and then even like Derek Barnes played super well last year, and we've got Rodrigo as a depth guy. So like our linebacking core was generally pretty good. So where do we struggle? Cornerbacks and pass rush. So I'm definitely on board with this. The pass rushing and our backfield are going to be super interesting to watch. Let's see what we got here. Pat says, I wonder how much Levi O is going to play. Hopefully he's healthy and is going to be playing some. I would guess he's probably going to play the first quarter. Same with Pascal. After that, I think they're going to give a lot more time to guys like Broderick Martin, Wingo, um, some of those kind of guys, Agude, that I think I'm pronouncing that name right. But uh, if not, I apologize, Mitchell. But I think they're going to give some of these other guys a little bit more time. But I think he's definitely going to get some time in the first quarter. What else? Um, we kind of covered uh, some of the stuff going around the NFL with Ayuk and Hall of Fame and top 100. We kind of talked about the Lions injuries, which thankfully are not particularly serious outside of Mosley, which is a super bummer. What else? What else we want to talk about, guys? It's exciting. Like real football is going to be played in 48 hours, less than 47 hours and 10 minutes. We're going to be going to kickoff, and I am pumped. So, what else we want to chat about while we're here? So I'm trying to see if there's any other interesting news for Detroit. Um, has anybody heard whether Kirby Joseph actually ended up getting suspended or not? I haven't heard anything official yet. Got nothing. Um, Kind of looking at Pride of Detroit. Great site. They got a lot of good content there, so I love checking their stuff out. They said that the Giants writers believe Lions got the better of New York on day 2 of joint practices, so that's cool. I love hearing that we did better than the other team, regardless of the context. Let's see. That's it's not a ton. Next Tuesday, so I'll do a little bit of not spoilers, but like prep work for next Tuesday. I think we're gonna talk about some bold bets. Drew and I are going to come up with some of our bold predictions for next week. He hasn't told me his. I haven't told him mine, so that'll be a fun time. So I'll be curious to see what everybody else is going to be predicting for the Lions this upcoming year to next week. Probably Detroit has a bold prediction why Jamison Williams will break 1,000 yards. I would love to see it. I'll be curious to see who's taking yards away from. If he's making 1,000, there's only so many plays that we're going to have, right? So if he's making 1,000 yards, does that mean Laporta is getting less? Does that mean Amon-Ra St. Brown's getting less? Does that mean Khalif Raymond is a non-factor? As much as I'd love to see him hit 1,000 yards, I wonder what that means for the rest of the team, right? And similar with our running backs, if Jahmyr Gibbs is going to break 1,000 yards, I think Sun God posed a challenge to Jahmyr Gibbs to have over 1,000 yards receiving and 1,000 yards rushing this year. And I think he said something to the effect of, "I will buy you whatever you want." And Gibbs said something like, "I'm gonna get me a house out of this." Everybody's getting yards, Mike. Stop with yeah. It's dude, I would love to see us score 60 a game. Um, that means our defense is stopping them as well, because that's the only way you can get that many drives. We're scoring every time, and we're getting a bunch of drives. So awesome D, number one offense. I love it. So yeah, I mean, I think if Gibbs does 1,000 yards receiving and 1,000 yards rushing, what does that mean happen to Montgomery? Is he getting fewer reps? Are we gonna have 2,000 yard rushers? and 1,000-yard receiving running back. Does that mean Amon-Ra St. Brown is not performing, or like what does all that mean? Um, so I'd love to see all that stuff, and I think it would take scoring 60 a game to have all of those things happen at the same time. So, which I wouldn't be opposed to seeing. Pat says, I want to see the new kickoffs. Yeah, I'm interested in that as well. I don't know. I haven't watched. Did anybody watch the Hall of Fame game? Who was it? Chicago versus, I don't even remember who. I only watched like 3 plays, and I think it got rained out. But um, I think that the new kick rules will be very, very interesting. I mean, they were both close, and neither played a full season last year. Danny says the Texans. It was Chicago versus the Texans. Thank you, Danny, for coming to the rescue. Yeah, I mean, to Asic's point, like they were both pretty close to 1,000 yards. And neither played a full season, but I think at the same time, if they were both playing the full season, I don't think. I think one of them got additional reps and additional targets when the other one was out, and vice versa, right? So I'm not sure necessarily that if they played the full season that it would be a ton different. The handoff that would have gone to Gibbs went to Monty, and vice versa. Brian says JMO gets Josh's yards plus a little bit from Ra. He might not hit 1,000, but I think he'll get 1,200 all-purpose yards. All right, so you're thinking some end arounds that are going to go for a ways then. Doing that Deebo Samuel type of play, which worked really well for Deebo over in San Francisco. So if we can get that kind of production out of him, I'm not opposed. I will be curious to see if he returns any kicks. If those are some of the all-purpose yards you're referring to, because the dude is fast. So if he can get behind people, it's touchdown bound, right? So I'll be curious to see how those kickoff rules go, and then how we play them. Who's our returner? Are we going to put a guy like Jameson Williams in there sometimes? That would be pretty fun to watch. All right, guys. I think we covered most everything. Anything else before we get to just dreaming football? Drew will be back next Tuesday, so you'll get to see that beautiful beard next week. We'll do our bold predictions episode. We'll probably look at some of the new positions of value and what that ranking looks like and which positions are where. And then of course we'll do a recap of Thursday night's inevitable victory and a preview of the following week's game against Taylor Swift's boyfriend's team. But until then, I think we'll let y'all go. Have a fantastic rest of the week. Go Lions. We'll see you guys. Appreciate y'all.